base is dropped on a Wednesday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, December the 12th. Soccer Down here is live. Jason Longshore, Jarrett Smith with you this morning. It's a WallPass Wednesday. We're taking your questions. Throw them at us on Twitter at Soccer Down here. Use the WallPass Wednesday hashtag. Jared, it was a quiet day yesterday. Not much going on. Not many player moves around MLS. Pretty boring day, actually.
I'm sorry, my brain is broken. I just saw a message you sent me earlier about Marcelo Bielsa, and I can't really think anymore.
Yeah, that kind of broke me for a little while. I bounced back. I was kind of freaking out when I first saw that. So this is part of the silly season. It doesn't really seem. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anymore. And that's kind of where we're at these days. This is not your old school MLS anymore. When you're getting TalkSport rumors out of the UK that Marcelo Bielsa would leave Leeds United and come to Atlanta. I guess it could happen. If you're a guy like Marcelo Bielsa who always has, strong demands on what he wants when he goes to a club, and he's not going to, take a gig if he doesn't get what he wants, and, Atlanta's going to be able to give you what you want here. Now, then there's always the questions about control and these sorts of things, but anything can happen. I think for some people, they would be like, oh, nobody would leave Leeds United to come to Atlanta United. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I really don't.
No, and it'd be hilarious we lost Tata. What did we do? Well, we got Tata's mentor.
He went and got his mentor. That would be madness and greatness and all of the things. And if you think Tata was a interesting interview, oh, boy. They call him El Loco. They call him El Loco for a reason.
Yeah, and Tata is a really. I will stand by that. Tata was probably the sharpest and wittiest manager in Atlanta sports at the moment. Because Tata, at the drop of a hat, could banter with you, and could be very sharp. Also very kind, but. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Bielsa's a different animal.
Yeah, there's nothing to it other than a report from TalkSport. I mean, it's a very loose rumor at this point, so don't go and get too crazy about it. But the Morning Journal per Sport Witness says that Bielsa, along with Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, are the top candidates for Atlanta United. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I guess. Good Lord.
The new world of Major League Soccer and the new world of Atlanta United. Anything is possible. Reportedly, Bielsa turned down an offer from Mexico in August. That's another thing in the article. So we'll see. One move that did go down yesterday was Greg Garza being traded. And it's not a giant surprise because the rumors about a potential deal for Garza were going on Saturday night. Vancouver was the destination there, and that all started, we talked about it on Sunday's show, from a blog out of Vancouver. Could have been some mixed signals because of all the different moves that Vancouver was interested in and all the different things that Cincinnati's been doing, because Greg's going to end up in Cincinnati after a pretty big deal. There's been a lot of roundabout about how much you got for Greg Garza, and you ended up getting $450,000 in allocation money in a couple different buckets. Look, the thing that I come back to is it's hard to put an allocation money price tag on a player because the market is honestly, I think, still kind of being defined, especially with the new world of TAM and how it's working and expanding and all of that. $450,000 in allocation money is nothing to sneeze at. And you can quibble about, well, it should have been 5 or it should have been 6 or it should have been 8. It felt like a number that when I saw it initially break, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That works. I think you were going to lose somebody in this draft. You were going to lose Mikey Ambrose. You were going to lose Greg Garza. With everything you have at left back right now, I did not see any scenario where all of them were coming back in 2019. And when you can part with one but get a haul like this in allocation money, you kind of have to do it, Jarrett, in my opinion.
Yeah, you do. And we had talked about this. I think it was one of those where Cincinnati probably reached out, said we'd be interested in Garza. I don't blame you. He's a national team caliber left back when healthy. But I'm sure it's also, we'll sell you Garza, but you're not going to touch anyone in the expansion draft because backroom deals like that happen, and it's nothing shady about it.
That's why you can leave Lorenowitz unprotected too. Yeah. Is you make a deal like that, and that's why everybody freaked out about that. There was no risk of losing him there.
Nope, no, there's no problem at all for him. I mean, you could have. It lets you be, I think, more flexible with your list of players who are unprotected. Where okay, well, we've made this deal, so now it's not a big deal. No worries. Matter. There's only one team coming in. Yeah, so we'll just go on about our business because. Look, this isn't the last piece of business they're probably going to do. This isn't the last piece of business they'll be rumored or linked to. Doesn't mean they'll make other moves, but there will be rumors.
Oh, for sure. Yep, and they are the big boys of MLS right now, and that means you're going to have people who want some of your players, especially guys where you have a lot of depth, and to stay in that role, to stay as one of the top clubs. You have to be ready to make these kind of moves. I think we understand the move, and we've talked about the potential of moving a left back for a while, but let's talk about Greg Garza specifically and what he brought to the table with this team. This is a guy who came here after a number of injuries at Tijuana, a player who, when he was healthy, was getting time with the national team. He just couldn't stay healthy. Left Tijuana when they were having some financial problems, and I don't know if it was ever publicized or how it went down. I honestly don't know if Atlanta had to pay a dime for Greg Garza from Tijuana outside of maybe any loan fees, because I don't think they could have paid a salary. They were really struggling for money at the time. Looks like they've turned a corner now hiring Oscar Pareja, but Garza came here last year and brought a lot of stability to a young team. And he was that bridge, I felt, between the young guys, the older guys, the Latin guys, the American guys. Garza was really important in connecting all of the dots with this team in 2017, I felt.
Yeah, he's brought it up before. I think he said 11 cultures, 7 languages, I believe it was, that Tata had to bring together. Mm-hmm. And look, Greg speaks 3 of them. So he had to do what he had to do. He was really good at it too. So good on him for being able to do that and being able to be that bridge at time. He said before, he scored that on a goal. He spoke in 3 languages in a celebration. Because he and Joseph both, I think, speak about as many languages as a CIA operative. Look, they're losing a guy who can be that glue guy, but I think it's easier to do if you're going to continue doing what you're doing. I think it's easier to make this kind of move when you look at what Leandro Gonzalez-Perez has become for this team as kind of the ambassador to Atlanta. And that guy who can reach out to the South American community and say, when guys come here and say, I'll happily take you under my wing and we'll do this together. Don't worry. It's kind of a weird place at times. If you have any questions, ask me, because I can bridge that gap culturally and with language.
Yeah, that's a key role, and that's something Leandro, I think, has grown into. And Garza has had injuries. You know, he had injuries last season. He had them again this season. The shoulder was a little different than the hip injury that he had coming in, where there was concern about, you know, what it would mean for his career. And he showed in the first half of last year, earning an all-star spot, that he, you know, was back. At his age, and as his career goes on, you will always worry about injuries with him. I think it's just going to be a common theme. But if you're FC Cincinnati and you're launching 2 years after Atlanta and you see what Greg Garza did for Atlanta, it's a perfect guy to go get. And you look at the back line that could have, when everything is said and done, because there's rumors about Cincinnati getting Alvis Powell from Portland in a trade, you could have a back line of Greg Garza, Forrest Lasso, Kendall Waston, and Alvis Powell. That's a really good back line for an expansion team in this league.
I already said, I mean, they've got, I think I messaged y'all the other night, by getting Kendall Waston and Forrest Lasso, it's basically the David Robinson, Tim Duncan of back lines. Both those guys are like 6'5". Both of them can jump really well. Cincinnati's going to be a problem on set pieces, you know, whether or not they're able to do other things. Set pieces will not be a problem for Cincinnati offensively or defensively.
Look, you always need that out when you're building a team because it's hard to guarantee your run of play is going to be very, very strong off the bat. And we talked about it with Atlanta coming into 17. You always had that speed. No matter if you could control the play, if you could control the possession, whatever, you always had game-breaking speed, and that's always a weapon. You could just get simple and try to use your speed. Well, Cincinnati can get simple and play for set pieces, and we've seen how effective that can be because you got Kendall Waston, who's probably the best goal-scoring target on set pieces and corners. I think Aaron Long might be a little more multidimensional, but Waston's right there. And you've got Lasso, who we haven't seen in MLS yet, who is a giant, who is just a giant freak of nature. So you're going to have problems.
He's physically, athletically more talented than you would think looking at a guy his size. Like, he moves better. Someone asked me this last night, how he moves. Like, I mean, he's not the fastest guy on earth, but he's faster than you think he is. When you look at him, and because he's 6'5", legitimately 6'5", and he's built. But he moves for a legitimate 6'5". Like, he moves faster and quicker, really, than you would think. I thought he was at his best when he was partnered with Taylor Mueller in Charleston. I thought that partnership worked really well. Right. It was a nice little peanut butter and jelly. I want to see how this works with Waston. I want to see how Waston plays with the ball at his feet if it comes down to that, if that's what they end up doing. Because if he could have played with his feet, man, in a different world, I'd have loved Kendall Waston to partner up in Atlanta's back line in the future. But I don't know if he can play in this system, but I really am a fan of him as a player. So it's just been one of those pipe dreams.
Yeah, I would agree. The other thing about Greg that will be a huge benefit to Cincinnati is Greg will go out and be a personality for this team in the community. And it's something that he did an amazing job with here, his work with the unified team. And I know you guys have seen some of that. One of my favorite things from 2018 was getting to go up to the training ground when they signed the unified team players. They did it like a signing day. It was very cool. And Greg had done unified team the year before as well. Just the relationship that Greg had with some of the families and some of the returning players, it was so cool to see. And, you know, he was out there with those guys when he was injured, you know, after he'd had surgery on his shoulder. Just such a good guy and a good representation of what you want your club to be. So Cincinnati will get a huge benefit from that. They're going to get a left back that, when healthy, is among the best in the league. And it's a deal that makes sense both ways, I think, honestly. I think with George Bello coming through, he's going to have to play more in 2019. Does he play every day? Probably not. But you also have Jose Hernandez, who I think we forget. Hernandez captained Venezuela's U20s to a World Cup final. he's no scrub here. He's a guy who had a little bit of a slow transition to the U.S. and to Atlanta United. Some young players do. Others don't. Jose did. And he also had some nagging injuries. So Scott Donnelly talked about how at the end of the season, Hernandez was showing that quality that they identified with him early on. So I think between Bello, Hernandez, Mikey Ambrose, who we know can play at this level, you've got plenty of options at left back. And, we can talk about Bello's age and we can get into that all we want, but he is a special player, and we got glimpses of that this season. He is the future there. So you have to create that opportunity for him to get more minutes. And when you can do that and get some very important pieces of roster building help in this allocation money, it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion.
Well, before we go to break, we're going to take a 20 break, and as we continue to shift the clock like it's an eon through time and space, let's hit a WallPass Wednesday, because I want your take on this before we do this, Jason. Is Nathan Pugh's WallPass Wednesday, he sent it in yesterday. What do we do with all the extra TAM and GAM? What do you do with it now that you've gotten a nice treasure chest?
The thing that we don't know, and the reason why it's almost an impossible question to answer, is you're going to have players who year 3 of their deal, or those players that their options were picked up, that have a big jump in salary. So having this extra allocation money helps you deal with that. If you have to buy somebody down, if you have to finesse numbers under the cap, this allocation money could be used for that. It might not be used to go out and acquire somebody. It might be used to make your current guys fit under the cap and using that TAM. So I'm kind of leaning to that right now. It's a little early because there's not really a position that I feel like has to be upgraded at the moment. I like the depth of this team. I'm happy with it. If Miguel Almiron goes, you're going to bring in a high-profile addition. We know that. P.T. Martinez, we know the talk.
What a pity. There we go.
Exactly. You're going to be fine there because it's going to be more of a like-for-like replacement. Outside of that, I honestly don't know. You're probably not going to use the allocation money to go out and replace a guy like Sal Zizzo, who I think you do need to replace. You do need more depth on the right side to give you a little bit of help. You were able to move Escobar and Gressel around, but let's just say if Escobar had gotten hurt in the postseason, then you have to move Gressel back, then you have to bring in somebody else. If you'd had Zizzo, you would have had a little more flexibility. So maybe a right back with a little versatility. That'd be helpful. But honestly, outside of that, I can't think of any major needs for this team. We're going to go up against the break now. We're going to take it. If you have questions, send them our way on Twitter, @SoccerDownHere. I'm going to step away for a segment. I'm going to go talk to John Fricke and Hugh Douglas over at 92.9 The Game for a segment. Joe Patrick is going to slide in and substitute for me, and then we'll attack the rest of the show as a trio after that. Stay with us. We will be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia.
Just getting cozy.
Yeah, better than Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football, but wow, those were some dark times. So we had plenty of action in the league yesterday. Lots of trades. MLS continues to be able to stretch like a 90-second expansion draft into a 25-minute show, which is both impressive and confusing all at the same time. So, what were your takeaways on the expansion draft from Cincinnati?
Yeah, the whole show is a bit much, isn't it? You know, it's
man, it is.
It's like they're trying to impress their bosses. Somebody's trying to impress a boss here. Like, that's what all this speaks to me. Trying to show off, what they can do, that kind of thing. Anyway, because you could do this over a press release, you could do it over a conference call. It's not something that needs all this production and drama. And I think that that we heard that Darren Eales was pretty pissed off about how it all went down. His words, not mine.
No, that's where I was going to go. You could anger Darren Eales.
But yeah, about the trade, I heard what you guys were saying on the last segment, and I think that about the money that you get for him and how do you use it? That's something that only Darren can really say, or and Carlos. I think the way you have to look at this, and the way you just kind of have to look at all of the transactions that happen this postseason or this off season is just when the roster comes together next season, you just have to look at it and say, just compare and say, do we have a better roster now than we had then? And at that point, you can kind of assess whether these were good or bad deals to make. I think it's a good deal. I think that, and again, before I even talk and kind of analyze the trade, because it sounds so, I always feel uncomfortable analyzing this stuff because there's obviously human people involved and good people, especially like Greg Garza.
Don't want to put dirt on the grave too early,
right?
In the name of decency.
Yeah, but we also have to give the people what they want. So. But yeah, first of all, hats off, kudos to Greg for, being an amazing professional while he was here, for being an amazing player while he was here, just helping the team. I don't think Atlanta United wins MLS Cup without him in this postseason. I thought he was one of the best Atlanta United players who really helped them. So, you got to thank Greg Garza for everything that he's done. But here comes the but. I think left back is, in general, it's a place where it's not like core position to, when you look at the 11 players on the team, you always think about, people always say, look, you got to build through the spine. It's like, building through, it's like building around your offensive and defensive lines, in football. Like, you want to be solid at the core of your team. And the left back and, the fullbacks are maybe more like the corners. It's like, it's where you can develop people. It's where you can find traits in players that, they may not be the best players, but you can find the right kinds of traits for a guy who can do a job there. It's in general a position where you can find pieces to make it work. So I think when you have a really good one like Greg Garza, or at least one that is that other teams in the league want, then you have to look at it and say, okay, can we replace in a almost like baseball, can we replace with a replacement level or close to it and get a league, and can we have a league average guy while getting assets for it? So in that respect, I think Atlanta did well because they have those players. They have Mikey Ambrose, who has shown that he's a solid professional, not an amazing left back, not like, out of this world, but he can definitely do a job for you. And then obviously most importantly is George Bello. I think you just have to make room for someone like him because when he turns 18, he's probably gone. So you're going to want to you're going to want to get 2 years out of him if you can. And you don't want to hold him back either in his development. So those are the obvious reasons. But that I think that you would want to move a piece like Greg at this time when he has this value. So is it a good move? We'll see. But I think that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know. Like, people are like, is 450, is that enough? Like, do we get enough for him? It's like, I don't know. I can't really say until we kind of figure out what the squad looks like next season.
Yeah, that's going to be important, is figuring out what this looks like. But to me, it feels like you did the right thing, because I think you were going to lose one of these guys. Because I had Ambrose pegged as a guy you were going to lose in the expansion draft.
Yeah.
I had Ambrose pegged as, man, if I lose somebody, it might be him. Mike Conti had mentioned Kevin Kratz, which made sense if you wanted, in Cincinnati, a town with a lot of German pride, if you wanted a guy to be that veteran who can give you a little bit of skill off the backside.
Well, we should talk about Mikey Ambrose as a player we could have lost in the expansion draft, because I think that we would have had we not made this trade. I think that, we heard Darren Eales say, he talked about moving Garza, as he said, we always felt like we were going to lose a piece in the expansion draft, and Greg Garza was a part of that. Well, why would he have been a part of that if he was just in a trade that didn't involve any of the players who were picked in the expansion draft? I think it's because Cincinnati probably said, we want to take Mikey Ambrose, or we would like to acquire Greg Garza in a trade, and if we do that, then we won't take Mikey Ambrose off of you. And I think that Atlanta would just, it was a preferable situation for Atlanta. And this is just all speculation by me. I haven't talked to anybody that has confirmed this or anything, but this is just me putting the pieces together and kind of reading between the lines here. I just think it was preferable for Atlanta to say, okay, well, if we're going to lose one of them, let's at least put George Bello in the best spot for playing time and to succeed in the future, by making a transaction that creates more room for him, gives us some more budget room to work with in the offseason.
And then one of the questions we had, and I know you probably heard at the end of the segment, I want to get your take on it, about what you're going to do with all that TAM and GAM. Because, man, 450 is nothing to sneeze at. It really isn't.
Yeah. Do we owe Portland money for winning? Yeah.
Yes, we do. This was brought up on Extra Time Radio. It's like 400 or somewhere between like $400,000 and $600,000 in TAM.
I think the TAM is an exact match. I thought it was just $250K that we owed for winning MLS Cup and coming top 3 in points. I think that was the only clause that we actually hit in that trade. And I believe that we got the same exact amount of TAM out of this deal that we owed Portland. So I think that may be one reason.
I mean, I would say it was worth it.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth it too, for sure. But I think that maybe, one reason is that we had to kind of procure that allocation money in some form or fashion. So this was just one way to do it. Plus, you get a little bit of extra GAM on top. And like I said, allocation money is just like, people should think of it less, or actually people should not think of it at all as like $1 that you would use to go buy a player. Because really, it actually has more value than that. Because what allocation money allows is flexibility on your roster. It allows you to just manipulate things to get players to fit under all these different buckets and wage ceilings that they need to fit under in order to be registered for the squad. So it's hard to say like who you would go get with this money. But I think it just gives you added flexibility to do a lot of different things. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, because I think when you look at our front office, it's just really, they're making sensible moves. They're hard. They're emotionally.
Not every sensible move is a sweet move.
Yeah. And that's what I like seeing out of the front office. It's always fun as a fan to see your team, your team kind of making those sensible moves, doing things that you would do in Football Manager or FIFA, or you're just like to try to build the best possible team of players that you possibly can. So I don't know who they're going to get, but I'm excited to see kind of what they do. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. we'll see how much George Bello can play. We'll see what Mikey Ambrose does. We'll see what Jose Hernandez does. I mean, there's also the fact that you do have Chris McCann under contract again. And I get it. Chris McCann carries a hefty number with him. Chewy/Maytail Trades will not be happy that Chris McCann has not been fired into space. I will be very happy that Chris McCann has not been fired into space, especially if he's going to keep drinking beers on top of buses. I've never seen a human get alcohol out of a small opening that quickly. It's like he was teleporting the beer into his stomach. It was very impressive. But you've still got depth there. I think you're going to be fine in the long run. And there are we talked about this, there are going to be other rumors that pop up this year about Atlanta United players coming or going. I mean, remember last year, the Darlington Nagbe move came out of left field. And we find out after the fact that it had been bantered about in the summer. But there's going to be discussions, because when you have a championship team, somebody is going to be, not every move is rational, and not every GM/technical director/president is rational. You might get an offer that's too good to refuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm reading the Wire here. Artist formerly known as TLC just sent in a tweet from Jamie Goldberg, who works with the Oregonian, reporter for the Oregonian. Met her actually this weekend. Very nice. But she said that the Timbers are not requiring any additional assets based on winning MLS Cup, because apparently he also needed to hit personal targets that he didn't hit. So Nagbe did. So thanks,
Joseph Martinez, for stepping in front of Sean Johnson that day and making sure that Nagbe ended the season without a goal.
Talking about sensible moves, that's another one. Darren Neals knows that just Darlington Nagbe does not get goals or assists. He does literally everything else, but not goals or assists. So put those in the clause and make that make those his incentives.
I mean, why not? Because that's the way he plays traditionally. I mean, when he's at his best, and that's really what he played in Atlanta, is we're just gonna be an offensive version of Carlos Carmona. That's what we got. It worked out nicely. I don't know how long Darlington Nagbe is going to be in Atlanta for. I know when he came here, in my mind, in the back of my head, it was Darlington Nagbe in Atlanta is going to be fun for, like, I don't know, somewhere between 2 and 5 years. He could be a really good bridge to a Chris Goslin if Goslin takes the right steps in development. But it also, Nagbe's not so old that I need to rush development with Goslin. I could still take my time with him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I think it'll be interesting to see for a lot of players just kind of what happens in the future, because when you get a new manager in, it just changes the dynamic for every single player on the roster. And I think that we heard Darren Neals talking to 92.9 yesterday about this, about, wanting to have some continuity in the play style, right? And that makes total sense. You don't want someone who's going to come in and just, chop and change everything. But even with that in mind, there are still, the manager will still assess players individually differently than Tata Martino did. I mean, Tata Martino, we heard it from Julian Gressel last night on Stoppage Time Live. He said that when I came in, Tata saw me as a number 8, and that's how I trained, or that's how I developed. Obviously, that changed over time, but who knows if does the next manager see him that way, or other players similarly? Like, do they see players as do they see Goslin in this role or this role? So it'll be very interesting to see kind of how the new manager approaches not just Goslin, but tons of players in the Atlanta United squad. And I think that's what's kind of exciting about the future of this team and the future and just the prospect of getting a new manager, is that we kind of get a whole new perspective on Atlanta United. Because right now we've kind of, from a playing staff, we've only seen that perspective from Tata Martino. So now we're going to get a perspective from someone totally different, and we're going to see kind of what qualities, what traits he thinks certain players have and where they can be best used. And we're going to see players, I think, playing in slightly different roles, maybe a slightly different system. So it's going to be fun in that regard.
And I guess let's wrap up this segment-ish. Time is fluid anyway, with another question from Thomas Jewin. Question for WallPass Wednesday. Does Remedi, Nagbe, Gressel have the potential to be the best midfield trio in MLS 2019?
That's a good one. That's a good question. It's definitely a different kind of style than a lot of midfield trios. It's like it's definitely a very solid midfield trio. But I think usually when you're thinking about a midfield three, you've got one of those players is typically like a super creative DP type, which obviously none of those three players are. You could make an argument Darlington Abbey is kind of like that, but I don't know. I don't know if they're the best, but they're definitely MLS Cup quality. We know that, so I think that's good enough for me.
We know they can shut down. We know they can shut down. He's
Hello.
back.
I'm waving.
That doesn't work for radio.
Yeah, man, I tried. They're a weird trio in the sense that it's a very, very flat triangle. And I think you'll see that change, at least in the regular season. It's good to have this, though, and it's good to have this to fall back on, that you can turn to this. And, yeah, whoever the new manager is will have to find his own flavor and his own personality of it. But he's going to study the tapes. Well, Bielsa would be very different because he would be – your three center backs would be consistent. Your wing backs would be consistent. He likes to do a lot of 3-3-1-3 or 3-3-3-1. He will adjust a couple of things based off the opposition if they play two up top as opposed to one. It would vary. And that's the thing about Bielsa is I think we always talk about Bielsa as being rigid 3-4-3. That's what he does. It's not. He is very fluid in formation and style. So you would see it look like this sometimes if Bielsa was in charge, but you would also see it look like a true 3-4-3. You'd see it look like a 4-3-3 at times. You'd see it look completely different than anything we've seen so far at times. Bielsa is El Loco. He will mix and match and go with his feel for how he's going to break down an opponent. He finds that good balance that I think we kind of struggle with at times of maintaining your identity and what you do, but also adjusting to what the opposition throws at you. It doesn't have to be either or, and I think Bielsa's really good at finding that middle ground.
I want to see what would happen if Chris Armas started celebrating next to Bielsa and hyping up the fans.
Oh, boy. I don't know if Jorge Thieler would have to step in and say anything in that case.
No. Dario Sala's just going to walk away. He doesn't want to be a witness to what's going to happen. He doesn't have to go testify.
That would be fair. Bielsa might walk over and turn the camera off, and then who knows?
I need this in my life. It's probably not going to happen. But until it doesn't happen, I'm just going to retcon history for my own benefit.
Yeah, it's a fun one to see. It definitely livens up a Wednesday morning in December, that's for sure.
Oh, God, this is all I need in life. We won MLS Cup. I don't need anything else. Just kidding. I do.
All right. Well, while Jarrett tries to reconcile the new world of a possible Marcelo Bielsa trip to Atlanta, we'll take a quick break, and we'll get into more of your WallPass Wednesday questions on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, December 12th. It's a WallPass Wednesday kind of show. So send us your questions. Send us your comments. It's kind of an AMA type of deal. You've got myself, Jason Longshore, Jarrett Smith, Joe Patrick from Dirty South Soccer hanging out with us this morning. John Nelson is talking high school football on Georgia Public Broadcasting.
Wearing a tie. Can we talk about that?
What?
He's wearing a tie.
Oh, I did not see this.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of ties. I don't like ties.
Neither am I.
Can't stand ties.
John's out there wearing a tie, doing sideline shots and doing like Jeremy Schaap level, not as sappy, but like features about coaches and teams. John's out there like looking legit.
You know he's got his liter of Mountain Dew just off camera.
Oh, of course.
Like within arm's reach.
He
he said he has to be careful. That's not a Pepsi-friendly facility.
Yeah. yeah. You got to be careful with that. But he might have a Kickstart smuggled in his bag somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I love about John. Always brings the Mountain Dew. Even though there's a fountain soda machine in the press box, he's got to have the Mountain Dew.
No.
I respect that.
Yeah.
It's
commitment. It is commitment to the brand for sure. And he's got it. Where do we want to go from here, Jarrett? What do we have on the WallPass Wednesday agenda that we haven't hit on yet?
All right, let's find out together, shall we? All right. Yeah, I guess we should. Drew Gano with Garza gone. Sad faces. Yes, sad faces all around, y'all. Do you think that means Atlanta renegotiates and holds on to McCann for depth, experience while growing Bello and having a backup for Ambrose?
It's not a bad idea. Joe, where are we on McCann? Was his option picked up already?
I don't know if he had an option.
He might not have even had an option.
Yeah, I think he was just still on contract.
Okay. So then, yeah, it is what it is. He's just there, so you don't even have to worry about it. Could you potentially renegotiate? Yeah, and usually in these types of situations, what happens is the player's not going to say, yes, I'll take less money because I'm a nice guy, because they shouldn't. That's not what you do. Would he say, you know what, my contract is up at the end of 2019. I will take less money over the 2019 season if you give me 2020 with a contract then too. And you could see something like that. I think you could see some moving numbers around to fit salary caps and stuff. But yeah, McCann is a guy that's useful. You know, he can play in a variety of roles with this team. He's obviously a good player to have in the locker room. He gets along with everybody. And he's a good player in the air on set pieces, something that is in short supply with this team.
Yeah, it's I think there's still a role for Chris McCann on this team, which is fascinating considering like he was part of the pre-Tata era, and Tata managed to find a way to use him. And I mean, found not just a way to use him, but for him to be really useful during the middle of the year when you're down to your fourth, fifth option at left back, and he was getting the job done. I mean, it started to fade at the end, but I thought it was cool that he was able to be on the field at the end. When you sub out Garza and give Garza a chance to walk off to the standing ovation, and then Chris McCann gets to end that game on the field after everything he had done this year, and even though it ended really rough in the regular season for him, you know, like the San Jose game, and just had a couple of rough outings, but it was cool that after everything that Chris McCann was able to be on the field at the end of that, because he was vital during parts of that season when you're down to your fourth or fifth option. Whether he comes back, I don't know. I like the idea of pushing the money a little bit because I'm sure he wouldn't mind that either. Being an older player, getting another year on the end of that contract is probably really nice for him, just to kind of, if he wants to try and see out his career and get years over money, that might be a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back because I don't think we really broke into this as everything was happening after MLS Cup. So Atlanta United exercised contract options on Alec Can, Mikey Ambrose, Garza, Gressel, Lorenowitz, Nagbe, and Romario Williams. They re-signed John Gallagher to a new deal. Where he was drafted, he might have just been on a one-year deal or a one-year deal with an option. They might have decided to go ahead and lock him up with a new deal. You already had 19 guys signed for 2019 coming in. And all that combined with means that you have Brad Kazan and Alec Can under contract and goal. Defenders, you have Ambrose, Bello, Escobar. Interesting that John Gallagher is listed as a defender. Leandro Gonzalez Perez, Jose Hernandez, Miles Robinson. Midfielders, Miguel Almiron, Ezequiel Barco, Andrew Carlton, Chris Goslin, Julian Gressel, Kevin Kratz, Jeff Lorenowitz, Chris McCann, Darlington Nagbe, Eric Remetti. Forwards, Lagos Kunga, Joseph Martinez, Patrick Okonkwo, Brandon Vasquez, Tito Villalba, Gordon Wild, Romario Williams. Don't forget about Okonkwo and Wild. Okonkwo is a homegrown signing. Wild is a Generation Adidas player, so he's not counting against your cap. Okonkwo is not counting against your cap. You've got some young players here that are, you've got under contract. They might play with Atlanta United too, but they're not hurting you cap-wise at all. You've got a lot of flexibility. So now after the deal with Garza going, you are renegotiating with Parkhurst. You're on 18 players right now. Parkhurst, if he comes back, he's 19. You've got some room to make moves if you need to, Joe.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason. You might have, I think you'll probably be able to confirm a suspicion I have. So let's look at like a guy like Oliver Shannon or Andrew Wheeler Amiunu. They had their options declined. Could that have happened because the team is looking to sign them to the USL squad to give them a contract with the Atlanta United 2 team?
Could be. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's a whole separate deal entirely. So guys like Laurent Kisiadou, Yosef Samuel, Alessandro Castro, Jack Metcalf, those are guys that are on Atlanta United to USL contracts. So those are the ones that you can't bring up just when you want. It has to be that emergency hardship that typically only applies to goalkeepers. That's why we saw Paul Christensen at one point this year. And you can bring them up for Open Cup or friendlies or CONCACAF Champions League, depending on how you take that. And I don't see that being an issue for Atlanta. Some clubs will do that. So it's possible. It's possible that you looked at it and said, you know what, Oliver Shannon, this option, we don't like this number. We're not going to bring you back at this number or on an MLS deal. We do want to keep you in the program. We want to sign you to a lesser contract, but maybe 2 years in USL. You might look at something like that.
And you have to make room for players coming in this year's draft as well, unless you were going to trade those picks. But you kind of have to make room for them somehow. And I think the most logical sense is to, use the contracts of guys like Oliver Shannon to do that. I was interested, though, in what you said about the club re-signing John Gallagher. That means he's on an Atlanta United deal, first team deal, and also as a defender. I think they are seeing him as a right back for this team, as a depth piece at right back, and I think that Scott Donnelly did a great job with him, kind of converting him to that position last year. So that's a really interesting piece to just keep an eye on and watch, and hopefully he's able to get some run with the first team in that position, in U.S. Open Cup, and especially in friendlies. Hopefully we can kind of see him almost feel like the Sal Zizzo role, just kind of being the emergency guy. He can probably he'll still play a lot with Atlanta United to be the regular right back there, but you at least have him, and he fits more of what you're looking for in terms of the profile of the player than Sal Zizzo did, who's pretty much more of a center back, really, who is a versatile guy who could play along the back. So very interested in John Gallagher there.
Yeah, Zizzo was more of a veteran who was maybe more of a traditional right back in a four-man back line, a little more old school, whereas Gallagher can play more as a wing back and really attack-minded. But he can also give you minutes on the wing as a right winger or on the left side. He can play up top in a pinch. It was really a lot of fun to watch that happen because I remember I believe they were on the road when it first happened, and we saw the lineup come through, and we're all like, John Gallagher at right back, what? And it was a 4-4-2 diamond, too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what in the world? And you start to look, and it's like, man, this is just who the players they have. Like, they just don't have anybody right now. They don't have anybody wide. And had a chance to talk to Scott Donnelly in one of our 1v1s at the end of the season. And it honestly was just, we don't have wingers at the moment. You know, they had injuries. They had some players unavailable. Some of the academy guys weren't available. They had to come up with something that worked for what they had. They did it. John kind of stood out a little bit like, hey, maybe we have something here. And Scott told us that the club came to him and said, we want to see more of this. Keep playing him in these roles. And we saw him play in a 4-man back line in a diamond midfield. We saw him play as a wingback with 3 center backs. And we saw him play in a 4-2-3-1 as a right back. So we got lots of different experience doing it the second half of the season. And he was dangerous. The defending was very good. There's definitely room to improve, but going forward, you're talking about a converted goal scorer from Notre Dame. He kind of reminds me of Chris Albright, a player who came up through the U.S. Youth National Teams as a forward, played in college as a forward, and then converted to an outside back at the professional level and had a long career doing it.
It wasn't bad from Grassolito.
He kind of does have a little bit of that little Julian to him, a little bit.
Yeah, it's not a straight up like for like, but yeah, there's a bit of do everything in there.
Yes.
Well, and this kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier with fullbacks and kind of finding the qualities that you need for the position. And lots of times you can find those qualities at other, with players that are, playing in other, quote unquote positions in the team. Greg Garza is a perfect example of this. He didn't start his career as a left back. He started his career as more of a winger and kind of developed into that role. And I think you see that a lot with fullbacks, not just in MLS, but around the world, really. Lots of times they're converted from another position. And talked to Scott Donnelly about it earlier this season, just in a press scrum, and he said that that's exactly what they saw at Gallagher. They just saw the qualities that they needed, that they thought he would thrive in that role, kind of especially if he didn't really have the defensive responsibilities tasked to start, and when he could just kind of bomb forward and be that width piece on the right side. And slowly and, over time, they will develop those defensive instincts. But it's good for him that the club sees a role and a position for him, in the future to grow into. That's exactly what you want if you're a young player in the squad. Doesn't, shouldn't be caught up in whether, what position you're playing. I'm on the left wing. No, it's if the club sees a path for you to grow into, then that's all you can expect or want as a young player. And I think he certainly has the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah, this is a club that wants soccer players, and they will find a spot for you if you are a quality soccer player that can do the things that they want. We're going to take a quick break, wrap up hour number 1 after this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Final segment before we get set for hour number 2. Send us your WallPass Wednesday questions and comments, and we'll get into those in the second hour. Joe's going to hang out with us a little while longer, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it, Joe. I know you did while I stepped away. Darren Eales is not happy with Cincinnati at the moment. This was a weird situation. Like, I was kind of out and about yesterday, and I flip on the MLS digital video talking about the expansion draft, and I flipped it over there like right as they were talking about Greg Garza, and I'm like, whoa, okay, Garza's traded. I don't have an announcement from Atlanta United. That's really strange. It is the custom in any league in the United States, because we have trades. This is, it's not really common in other parts of the world, but it's custom to be able to announce that you have traded a player, especially in the situation like Greg Garza, because you're getting allocation money. Cincinnati's not going to do an announcement that, yes, we traded allocation money. They're talking about Greg Garza coming. You would let the team that's dealing Garza announce that first and send him off in a proper way, especially after a championship, especially, knowing what Greg means to this fan base. It's just kind of, I don't even know if Bush League is really the right term. They were very overzealous in breaking the news in the way they did, and Greg deserved better, and this fan base deserved the opportunity to learn of it from Atlanta United. Is there a rule against it? Because I've seen the Reddit conversation. No, there's not. There's more of a common courtesy and a professional courtesy about the way you do it. And Cincinnati, let's be honest here. FC Cincinnati has to learn some hard lessons about how to operate in a professional manner. This is a very minor thing, but it's still a thing. Tommy Heineman, that whole situation was incredibly poorly handled, and Cincinnati was 100% in the wrong of terminating his contract. This is starting to create a trend, and hopefully FC Cincinnati kind of learns, okay, this is not USL anymore. We can't just do whatever we want. This is a much bigger spotlight, and we have to follow some of the norms in doing that. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Use the WallPass Wednesday hashtag. We're going to reset for hour number 2, and we'll get into all of your questions and comments then. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star, and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Soccer Down Here, December 12th. I guess we're fully into silly season now, guys. Rumors are flying fast and furious all over the world at the moment related to Major League Soccer, related to Atlanta United. We'll see. It's going to be a busy time. You think Barco Watch was something. You got Manager Watch, you got Miguel Watch, you got PT Watch, probably watches for players we're not even considering yet. All the watches.
The watches that are going to be fun for me are the kind of the on par with the Franco Escobars and the Eric Remetti watches, the ones who are like, that was a quick watch. What's he going to bring? Nothing. He's just going to bring everything. Like I tweeted this out last night. I started randomly cackling on the way to the station when I realized Franco Escobar scored as many goals for Atlanta United as they gave up in the entire postseason.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
It's pretty ridiculous. And this is what I keep trying to say to people, especially nationally. If you want to put Atlanta's success just down to Arthur Blank cutting checks, you're overlooking a lot of things, because Franco Escobar is a player that any team in this league could have tried to sign. Eric Remetti, same thing. And those were the two potentially most important players in the postseason for Atlanta United.
I don't think it's wild to say he might have been your playoff MVP.
Oh, I think Escobar was. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Agree. I think he was.
It's crazy how these weren't high-profile players either. I had no idea who either one of these guys were before they were linked to Atlanta. I had heard. I had Banfield. There was another central midfielder that I was looking at from them. Actually, I don't even know if he was still at Banfield when we signed Remedy. He was there the season before. But yeah, those guys have been amazing. I think Remedy. We talk about. I think I agree with you about Escobar kind of being the playoff MVP. But I think it's so easy to overlook what Remedy has done in the playoffs as well. That guy can shut down a playmaker. I mean, he can you can give him a one-on-one responsibility. We saw it against NYCFC with Maxi Morales. I'm sure Tata just said, if he's within the width of the goal box, I want you in his pocket, and he was, and he just tracked him all over the field. And I think we saw a similar thing with Valeri and Blanco. Remetti was crucial and just especially Valeri, just denying everything to him. Not even letting him go through. You talk about cutting off the head of the snake or starving, that source of creativity that's so vital for this team, especially because it just frees up all the attacking talent to do what they want to do, knowing that they have that base.
A couple of things to keep in mind as we get into silly season. Don't jump at every rumor, because there will be all kinds of them, and they will come from various sources. Try to get to know some of the primary sources especially from South America. I honestly think it might be a little bit easier to tell legit rumors in South America right now than England. So maybe it's just because we've had a lot of experience at this the last 2 years. Cesar Luis Merlo, CL Merlo on Twitter is legit. A person to pay attention to. Bruno Pont out of Paraguay is another one to pay attention to. There's plenty of others, but your TYCs, your Olays, your Clarins, those are all legitimate news sources. England, it's a little trickier as to who has the inside track on rumors and who doesn't. There's just so much chatter that I honestly can't completely tell just yet. One that I'm seeing right now, and this is not specifically Atlanta United related, but if I'm another Major League Soccer team with money to spend, this is somebody I'd be wanting to talk to. Juan Quintero from River Plate. Looks like there is a multi-million-dollar offer on the table from China for Quintero. And if you have not watched Quintero with the Colombian national team, with River Plate, if you didn't see his goal in the Copa Libertadores second leg of the final,
Amazing.
Go check him out. He is an unbelievable talent. And we've talked about James Rodriguez in Miami. Juan Quintero in Miami might not be a bad deal. And and Miami can start making deals now in this upcoming transfer window. Go sign him and loan him somewhere for a year, and he's one of your centerpieces to launch. Print the jerseys. Sell them. Make all the money.
It's funny that you mentioned James too. That goal he scored in that final, in the Copa Libertadores final, in the second leg, reminded me so much of the James Rodriguez goal that he had scored in 2014 World Cup. That I think was like the number one goal, where he just kind of takes it, has like a little quarter turn, and then just rifles one off the underside of the bar. It was beautiful. And he's one of those rare players that MLS, he would just be perfect in MLS because he has that quality on the ball that you don't see a lot. Well, I shouldn't say you don't see a lot, but it would be up there. Like the quality that he has would be up there with the Nacho Piattis, even more so. Like that supreme ability. And he can have in MLS, I think he can have some other guys around him if you put the right pieces around him that carries some of the weight, does the work, a lot of the work that's required, and depending on the system that they're playing, to just free him up to just be an out and out attacker. And I think if he's in that role, he's just going to light this league up.
Yeah, Quintero would be so much fun in this league. I mean, Rodriguez too. You want to get them both? You want to bring them both into the league somehow? Yes, please. Let's do this.
Yeah.
That's where MLS is headed, and I really think that some people don't want to believe that it's possible. It is, and Miami's going to be part of this. Miami will go out and be big and bold and make these kind of moves that right now we're only really seeing Atlanta linked to. It's going to push others into that as well. We're seeing some of the investment that probably should have happened years ago start to take place now, with training facilities being built, scouting networks finally being built out, academies being upgraded, all these kind of things that we've seen from day one here in Atlanta are now starting to happen around the league. And that's important. That's the backbone. But these kind of moves too. If Juan Quintero is available and you can go try to get him because he's thinking about leaving River, you go have that conversation. Might not lead anywhere. The Chinese offer might just be too big, and he might opt to go take the money for a year or two. But you got to kick the tires on these conversations. MLS clubs have to understand that they can be big. They can be bigger than they think.
I mean, I'd love to know if teams went out and talked to Maxi Meza after last year's Copa and what he did with Independiente.
And he's a player that easily MLS teams could bring in. Yeah. And he's that player that, this is something that I think you're going to see a bigger evolution on here soon with designated players. Maxi Meza would be a designated player in this league. Is he a big name to your average fan? No, he's not. Not at all. But is he the kind of player that can win a whole boatload of games for you and have an impact on the field and become a big name to your fan base? Yes.
Yeah, I was about to say, Miguel Almiron wasn't a big name either.
Nope, he wasn't.
Yeah. And you look at a guy like...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you look at a guy like Kaku. Red Bulls brought him in. He was. How much did he cost? He was a lot of money. I mean, he was right around the same as Almiron. He's somewhere in that ballpark. Somewhere in the ballpark, among the most expensive players to come into the league. Didn't really make that big of waves. I mean, he did if you're in certain circles, but nationally, I wouldn't have thought don't think he was that big of a signing, but he's come in and become kind of that household name that everybody around the league knows, and everybody around the league knows that he's kind of the primary creator in Red Bull. So I think that he reminds me of Maxi Meza in that sense, in that under the radar, but has quality. And both these guys stand out from an analytics perspective in terms of the goals, the expected assists that they create.
It's legitimate talent, and that's the thing about this league is you can go get some of these guys that now are far more interested in coming to Major League Soccer. And a lot of it is due to Atlanta. A lot of it is just due to the growth of the league. But if you are in South America and you're a talent and you're starting to talk about what's next in your career, and you see the MLS Cup match from Saturday, and you see that atmosphere and those fans and that level of play, you want to be part of it. And you're going to get pushback still a little bit in South America, although that's starting to go away. You're going to get pushback in England. I mean, I'm already seeing some of the links from people in Newcastle as the Miguel Almiron rumors heat up. Like, oh, he's an unproven kid playing in a second-rate league. Okay, think what you want. Go ahead and keep spinning that out, but those days are gone. Just like the old school sports editors pulling out the 1983 take on, is soccer really a big deal? This is the same thing. Is MLS a big deal? Is MLS a good league? Yeah, it is. And if you want to think that it's not, it's your loss and you're going to get left behind.
Don't bring Dan Shaughnessy into my morning. I'm having a good morning.
Has he said anything about this MLS Cup? I wish he would.
No, well, not yet. I think if the Revolution win one, like if Brad Friedel brings a Revolution one, he'll probably have some snide take about it because, Shaughnessy seems like that kind of guy who just doesn't want people to stop being happy, stop enjoying things. It'll never latch on. Okay.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what, we'll back off when you start writing a new column that's not recycled every 4 years.
I can support this.
Going back to Almiron, I think this is for me personally. This is one reason why I am. This might don't at me, please, but this is why I'm kind of excited to see him go and see him. I want to see him perform on these big stages. I want to see how. And the reason I want to see it because I think he's going to do extremely well, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. And I just want to see him playing on NBC, on my morning in my, Premier League mornings and just watching. I want to watch a different audience, an English audience, or even an American audience that just kind of pays attention to the Premier League. I want to see them experience Almiron and see what that's like for them. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing those perceptions that you talk about starting to change, because I think we've seen some perceptions about Major League Soccer already change within the domestic sphere. And so I'm kind of looking forward to watching people react to seeing an MLS player come into their league and make an impact.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I would not be adding you at all. Like, it's going to be sad when Miguel Almiron leaves Atlanta. Because now you got the rumors flying that it's imminent. I think it's sad. Miguel Almiron means a lot to this team. He was that first guy you gave the number 10 to, and he embraced that challenge. It was awesome. Always be grateful for Miguel Almiron. But I'm with you. I want to see him succeed at these bigger challenges. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that wow, this guy's going to leave, but let's just go ahead and get the silly season over with and get him over there so we can watch him succeed. Because I know personally, like, I'm going to take a lot of pride when Miguel Almiron puts on a different shirt at a bigger club and be able to say, like, he stopped here, he built up and got better here, and they'll say Atlanta United's name on those broadcasts. I'd feel a lot of pride in that.
It's funny right now. I'm looking at an article at thesportsman.com, which is not a site that I'm 100%. I don't think I've ever seen them before. They're talking about Leeds fans' reactions to that Bielsa rumor, and this is what you're getting. This is what you're seeing. Why would he do that when Leeds are second, playing great football? Dream on Leeds are coming back. Some big rivalries need renewing. Then, right, let's just apply a bit of common sense. Bielsa, one of the greatest innovators of the most popular sport on earth, is not going to Atlanta, especially after the job he's done for us. Obviously know nothing about the man or his integrity. Marcelo Bielsa has bounced around a lot of jobs, and he has walked away from jobs because he didn't like how the promises were not being kept, whatever. Look, this is the reaction to MLS. This is the reaction to Atlanta. That was, I believe, Marseille, where he was just like, "No, see ya, I'm out."
Well, no, but I mean, like that seems to be the Argentinian thing of, yeah, man, this wasn't what you promised me. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, but it's part of it.
That's business too.
But this reaction from Leeds fans is the reaction to MLS, especially in England. And Darren Eales will change it. Others will change it. But it will take some time. So when, and it's sounding more like a when, Miguel Almiron goes, and if he goes to England, you are going to get these types of takes that, oh, he's coming from a second-rate league. Oh, he can't handle this league, blah, 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 blah. To quote Kevin Keegan, I would love it when Miguel Almiron just absolutely is a revelation in the Premiership. I hope it happens. It'll be a big thing for Atlanta United when it does. And it'll be a big thing for Major League Soccer when it does. Because those are the types of things that will make these people look incredibly foolish to all concerned. We know it's foolish. We're seeing what's happening here up front. They're relying on 10 years ago takes of players coming over here at the end of their career when they could hardly move. That's not the reality on a regular basis anymore. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see all these things get broken down.
Cold, rainy night in Stoke isn't the same thing as like a cold, dry night in Minnesota in March. So,
yeah, exactly. Talk about Minnesota and snow and all that, and we'll see how that goes. Cold, rainy nights in Stoke. Oh, jeez. Anyway, we'll see where all this goes. There are rumors flying, and they will probably start flying more and more as we get further into this off season that is only a couple of days old. So stay tuned, buckle up, get ready. It's going to be a wild ride. The other one before we go to break that I'm seeing, and this is something I think we knew, but I'm seeing it in print for the first time. Guillermo Barros Schelotto's contract at Boca Juniors is up on December 31st. So he is signed through the end of 2018. If anything is going to happen before that, he's going to have to get out of his contract a little bit early. So keep that in mind as the coaching search rambles on. We're going to take a break and come back. More WallPass Wednesday after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, December 12th. Jason Longshore, Jarrett Smith, Joe Patrick, Dirty South Soccer, hanging out. Make sure you are following him, J.A. Patrick 200, and adding him with some of his takes. Definitely do that, because that's always fun.
Is that the real J.A. Patrick, or is that the one that the Orlando fans made to try and get into the Slack chat or something?
Yeah, I had to change my avatar just to make sure yeah.
I did not hear about this. You didn't
hear about this?
You had a fake
was amazing.
Joe Patrick from Orlando?
It was a social hacking attempt. There was a J.A. Patrick 2000 created, and J.A. Patrick 2000 was DMing my partners at the site trying to gain access to our passwords.
That's
to get
amazing.
They wanted access to the Dirty South Soccer Twitter account. Yeah.
It's literally the best thing that's ever happened.
Wow. It's a rivalry, folks. You have social media hacking going on. All right, let's get back into the timeline on a WallPass Wednesday. Jarrett, what do we have next?
All right, we got some catching up to do. Caleb Wright, if Waffle House becomes Atlanta United, sleeve sponsor, the team's nickname might become Waffle House United, which would be pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm
not going to
okay
be mad
with
about that.
I mean, if we start talking about, defensive styles or tactics being scattered and smothered and covered, okay, I'm cool with this.
Caleb, that was the shot. Here's the chaser from Caleb. Going back to a couple weeks of the future for MLS playoffs, I'd like to see several things. 8 teams in each conference with no off teams, no bye weeks, single elimination until conference final, then a 2-leg conference final, and MLS Cup.
Ooh, that's a lot to take in. I don't like the 8 in each conference, but I like the 2 legs all the way through. I would go 8 total. I would go 4 in each conference. I would basically take Mexico's playoff format and tweak it for our conference system and do that and play it.
I would just take Apertura Clausura and call it a day.
That's a bigger, bolder step. I'm fine with it. I know, our Latin fans around the league would be fine with it because it's very common in a lot of Latin America for the Apertura Clausura type of format with 2 champions, 2 separate leagues, all that type of deal. That might be a bigger step, but the way Mexico does their playoffs is super simple and easy and would work and would solve some of the problems that you're having with the calendar. You go to top 4 in each conference. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3. There's no buys. It's a 2-leg, but it's a 2-leg over a 4-day, 5-day span. It's a Wednesday, Saturday, a Thursday, Sunday type of playoff. And then you move into the next round. You could do the conference semis, conference finals, MLS Cup in a 3-week time frame. You could do it after the November break if you wanted to do that. If you want to compress the schedule, which I'm not a fan of, you could do it after the October break and be done. And then the tie break in these 2-leg series, the tie break is the higher seed advances if it's tied, period. That way you don't have to worry about away goals, you don't have to worry about penalties, and the regular season has that meaning that I think they're looking for.
Next up, let's see. Garbred Warlord Nick Alifi, host of Soccer Over There, who did a hot drop. Go check that out if you haven't yet. If you made a promise to get a tattoo should Atlanta United win the cup, pay up. Boys didn't take the cup to Magic City just so you could wuss out on your bet.
This is true. The most Atlanta thing ever. It was amazing. I don't know of what promise, who made bets on tattoos. I did see a few things making the rounds on Twitter about people saying they were going to get tattoos or make additions to their tattoos. I believe Jay Riddle is going to tattoo a star over his logo.
He has to. To be accurate, he has to.
It's true. So there are plenty of tattoo shops in the Atlanta area, and there are people who will give you good recommendations. I'm not one of them, but they are out there. So get ready. What's next, Jarrett?
From the Colonel, morning Colonel, because John's not here to do it. Apparently, Alan Koch felt that FC Cincinnati's draft was underwhelming. He attempted to compensate by inappropriately blurting the Garza trade. That's his take on it.
Well, we've talked about the draft and the way the Garza thing went down, but Joe, what do you think of Cincinnati's roster build so far?
I thought they would be able to do more with the expansion draft. Or I'm sorry, I thought they would be moving more pieces than they did in the expansion draft. After I thought about it for a little bit, I thought maybe it makes more sense, because what had been talked about them was that, people were kind of worried about how they were building their squad. So I think they had 10 USL players signed or something like that. Basically, the vast majority of their squad is USL talent. And so I think people were worried about, how are they going to fill in? Okay, so the USL talent's probably going to be your depth pieces, but you still need starters. You still need to build the core of your team. And so, so from my perspective, going into the expansion draft, I thought that they should do something very similar to what Atlanta United did, which I think kind of has set the best practice for how to use the expansion draft, which is basically just to use it as complete asset. Everything's an asset. I think, did Atlanta keep one player that they drafted? I think they kept one, at least one, maybe two.
Kept Ambrose.
Ambrose and Can.
Ambrose and
okay,
Can.
Ambrose and Can, okay.
And then Clint Irwin, Atlanta United legend, was traded back immediately.
Right.
Clint Irwin was traded back.
Danny
Zach
Toya
Lloyd,
was traded.
Donnie Toya was traded immediately. That was set up ahead of time. Zach Lloyd would have been kept. That was a little bit more of a flyer that didn't pay off. If he hadn't had the injury issues he did, that would have been a great pickup with a defender.
That's true.
Would probably still be on the roster, but that one didn't work out.
That's true. But I just felt that, especially with Cincinnati being the only expansion team coming in, I thought that they would be in a prime position to, you just ask around the league, say, who needs something? Who needs one of these players? They can basically be the middleman for any team in the league to take. If any team in the league wants to acquire any of the players that were available, Cincinnati would be the team that could do that for them. So I thought that that's what they would do primarily. And they did do that with Kai Kamara. That's a perfect example of what they did there. I thought they would just do more of that. I thought they would use at least, 3 of their picks to gain cash or other assets. But yeah, I mean, then afterwards, I thought, it does make sense because they do need MLS talent on this squad. And obviously there's no, in the expansion draft, you're going to get MLS talent. So it made sense, I guess. But other than that, it's hard for me to kind of tell. I kind of like the way that they're trending in terms of getting players that are fast and dynamic and mobile. The trade they made for Greg Garza, guy like Darren Maddox, who was the winger from FC Dallas. I forget his name. Lamar. Yeah. So I like that the way that they're trending, kind of the philosophy in terms of the player profile they're using to build their squad so far. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously this is just the very beginning. These are still just kind of, supplementary pieces to what will be their important pieces. But I guess they're not going to use all their DPs. Is that what's been said?
That's what they're saying. You look at what they've got so far. So goalkeeper, Ivis Galarsep's reporting they're going to go international, which I feel like is kind of a waste, but whatever, have at it. Back line, you're looking at
maybe it's a
potential
Midwestern
back
thing.
Line. Maybe it is. I think it's just a wasted opportunity. There's so many domestic goalkeepers you can get that are quality. You don't need to go international there. If you do, you better get it 100% right, because otherwise you look foolish. Backline, you could be starting Greg Garza, Kendall Waston, Forrest Lasso, and maybe Alvis Powell if that trade comes off, because that's being talked about. You still have guys like Justin Hoyt and Blake Smith from your USL team as depth at outside back. You've got some good pieces there. If you get Powell and you go into the season with that 4-man backline, it's pretty good. That's a pretty good backline. I liked the Eric Alexander pick from Houston. He's just a versatile, solid guy, kind of in that Luke Mulholland, Kevin Kratz type of central midfielder who can play a little bit of everything. He can pop up as a 6. He can pop up as an 8. He can drift out wide. He can play a little bit as a 10. just a utility piece, and that's a good one to get in this draft. Hassan Nadam from the Red Bulls with the 5th pick, a young center back who could develop and will push Lasso especially, and will benefit from learning from Waston, you would hope. Good piece. Lamah's interesting just because he's a little expensive. I wonder where he's going to fit, probably out wide with this team, but we saw Lamah play as a second forward with Dallas a little bit, so you could see a little bit of that. Darren Maddox is probably the guy that is going to make the decision on, is this a great expansion draft for Cincinnati or was it a waste? Because he's out of contract. He could be that second forward with Fernando Adi. He could be a winger. He's one of those players who has just always had so much potential but never quite lived up to it. I thought he was good with DC in the first half of the season, but obviously when Wayne Rooney comes, Darren Maddox is going to the bench. He's a guy, though, who is familiar to Alan Koch. You know, Koch worked with him at Vancouver, so they know each other. That's probably why he was the pick here. That's probably why he will sign a deal. But that's the one to me that if that works out and you go into a season just potentially with the back line that we talked about, an international goalkeeper, I don't know what you do defensive midfielder right now. It'd be probably Alache and Alexander to start with. On the wings, you could go Maddox and Lamah. Your number 10 could be Al-Badawi, could be Ledesma, 2 of your signings from USL. Ledesma intrigues me. I want to see if he can make the step up. And then Fernando Adi up top. It's not a bad lineup as it sits today. It's really not. Is it playoff quality? I don't know. Once you get past the top couple teams in the East, though, it is possible. And if you add a couple of nice pieces on top of this, I'm intrigued by Cincinnati. I'm maybe more intrigued than I was coming into yesterday.
I think from my perspective, I think that they need a really, really solid defensive midfielder, especially one that can drop in and kind of provide a back three, because both the fullbacks that they have, especially talking about Alvis Powell and Greg Garza, those are guys who are going to want to go forward. And I think that you will want a defensive midfielder in the mold of like a Jeff Larentowicz, kind of the role that he played his first season in Atlanta at Atlanta United, where he was dropping back, kind of splitting the center backs at times, sometimes dropping to the side, but giving Atlanta that kind of solidity so that the fullbacks could bomb on. It seems like that's the kind of style this team wants to have in Cincinnati. So that's one position I would be looking for. I think that they will, they'll use allocation money to try to bring in like as high quality international player for that position that they can, I think. That's just my gut feeling there. But I think that that's going to be a position that they really focus on. That's going to be the one that they have to get right.
Yeah, I agree. Alache maybe turns into that, but yeah, you need that one. If you get that one along with your sides on set pieces, you're going to be a difficult team. You're not going to be an easy team to play against. We got to hit the air horn real quick. And we have to reference this tweet because I completely agree with it 100%. Our friends, The Bunker Mentality, over at 92.9 The Game, 7 to 11 weeknights. Awesome, awesome show. A lot of fun to always sit in with Andy and Jarvis. They have tweeted out but really, though, we need the Atlanta United Championship version of this. And it is a picture of one of the NBA All-Star Game T-shirts. This is back from 87. If you remember the late 80s, early 90s T-shirts that they would do for a team or for an All-Star game or whatever, with sorry, Jarrett, this one's a good one. This has nothing to do with music that you don't like. Remember the cartoon drawings of the team with the players with a giant head. They look like bobbleheads, but it's a cartoon drawing. I'm going to retweet it now because it is awesome. This needs to happen for the Atlanta United championship team. This needs to happen. It needs to be sold on every street corner, and I will buy it immediately. Because if you could see giant cartoon bobbleheads of Miguel, Joseph, the caricatures with like the oversized head, this needs to happen. This would be amazing. Somebody, whoever is an artist out there, please make this happen. Just please make it happen. I'm begging.
We have enough artists in this in the Atlanta United soccer community that we should be able to get this done. Come on, guys.
So. I mean, I think it's doable. I don't think it'd be too difficult to do. It'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm all over this. I would put this as a print on my wall if it's not a T-shirt. I would wear the T-shirt. This would be amazing. Let me retweet this from Soccer down here as well so everybody sees this.
All right, one more wall pass before we hit the break because I don't know how long this will take. Nathan Pugh, possible options galore for CCL. Pay down Tito or Barco with TAM, bring in Pity, hold out until summer for Mickey. Doesn't look like that's happening. What sort of crazy depth would that be? Where you have,
it would be crazy.
In that instance, like what do you have Miguel running either as a second forward or as just a homicidal number 8, and Pity Martinez having freedom to move? It's a lot of freedom for a lot of players, but it's also a lot of playmaking.
Yeah, I think everybody's getting their eyes are getting a little too big about what could happen with potential Pity Martinez additions, and then maybe you don't have to sell Miguel. It's not going to happen, y'all. You're not going to see somebody available just for CONCACAF Champions League. At most, it's 8 games. Atlanta United will spend some money, but they're not going to have a player just for 8 games. It's not going to happen. Don't even try to go down that road and find ways to justify it. You're wasting your time. Look, this is... I would be surprised if Miguel Almiron is back in 2019. I'm not going to say it won't happen because it takes 2 to tango. And if the offer is not there, Atlanta United does not have to sell. They are in no way where, man, we have to take this offer for Miguel Almiron. I know it's not what we want, but we have to do it because we got to balance the books. Nope. Or we've got to do it because, we might not ever get an offer like this again. Nope. So they're in the position of strength. Whoever's going to try to get him is going to have to come with the cash. They're going to have to come correct. If they don't, Miguel Almiron will play here, and I don't think he's going to be too upset about it. So
yeah,
I don't think he is. I think the offer comes, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to say that it doesn't happen. If he stays, then Pity Martinez is not happening.
Right. I think one of the reasons people are now kind of getting their... I wouldn't even say hopes up because, like I said earlier, I kind of wanted to see him go. But why people are thinking he might stay is because of what he said post-game. And I think he handled the post-game questions about his future perfectly. It's exactly what you want to hear because he didn't take he didn't distract the team or divert the attention to himself. He could have said, I want to play in the Premier League next season, all this kind of stuff. And that would have been a story, all he did was try to deflect the question as much as he could, say he's under contract and he's going to be, will do whatever he would do as a player under contract for Atlanta United, which is exactly what he should have said. But yeah, he's not coming back, guys.
Yeah,
and that's good.
That is good. I don't think it's going to happen. It could if Newcastle, West Ham, Arsenal, whoever is being mentioned at these points. If they don't come with the right offer, sure. Atlanta doesn't have to sell. They're under no obligation to sell. They're in a stronger position than any MLS team has ever been in this type of scenario. They don't have to do it. And I don't think Miguel would be upset if he came back another year because he does truly enjoy playing here. But for the best of everybody, if the offer is correct, he's going to go. And I think that's where we're at right now. Let's take a break. Let's come back. More WallPass Wednesday after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Polinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. WallPass Wednesday. Almost last call for questions. We've still got some in the queue that we have to get to, so send them our way on Twitter at Soccer Down here. Joe Patrick from Dirty South Soccer hanging out with us. And Joe, you guys have an interesting story that J. Sam Jones was able to pull. It was something I saw pop up on Twitter in all of the chaos after the final, but you guys have a very intriguing feature over at the site right now.
Yeah, I think everybody would enjoy this. So I'm pretty sure most people saw there was a tweet that went around about a guy whose wife went into labor during MLS Cup. So Sam, as a smart reporter, journalist, he reached out to him and got the story from him privately. About what a crazy day it was. So I encourage everybody to go to Dirty South Soccer and read it. It's actually pretty funny. He wanted to stay for the trophy celebration, and his dad was like, "No, we have to go." And also, just personally, it's kind of funny because I didn't even realize this at the time, but I went to high school with him, played on the same football team as him. So it's kind of funny for me personally looking at it. Like it strikes a little personal for me, but it'll be a great story for anybody to read. And please share it with your wives, because I think that the wives will find it the most funny.
Nice. I
guarantee it,
from Soccer Down here. Go ahead, Jared.
Because my wife went into labor not even 24 hours after Atlanta beat Chicago last year in Bobby Dodd. Like, we went to the Atlanta-Chicago game. She was 9 months pregnant. And, 10 hours after the game, she went into labor. So
I think it was
something
because
about
of
Atlanta
that
United
Joseph Martinez goal. I think it was the Joseph Martinez goal at the end of that from the impossible angle. I think that did it.
Yeah, because that was right in front of our seats. And we're like, no. Yeah. So maybe it's just something about because that was the first home win at Bobby Dodd. So
correct.
Maybe it's just something about big moments at Atlanta United that send women into labor.
All right, let's go ahead and touch on this because we've mentioned it. We've talked about Miggy Watch, and it might not be a long watch as it's starting to make the rounds. Just so you know what's out there, Bruno Pont, who is radio on 7:30 a.m. ABC Cardinal in Paraguay. 398,000 Twitter followers, probably the leading voice for soccer in Paraguay. The one that I've seen the most and seen the most respect for. He has tweeted that Miguel Almirón's headed to Newcastle, and there's an agreement, and it will go down in the coming hours. Usually when we see something in the coming hours, it could be the coming days or even weeks. So don't get too wrapped up in the time frame, but Bruno Pont is on the Newcastle side of things for Miguel Almirón. It's crazy when we go back to talking about Miguel Almirón and potentially going. Newcastle was a club that I just kept zeroing in on at that level that where he could be a transformational player for them. He would get the playing time that he needs to get, and they're a club that would have the money to spend. Now, that was a little bit of a stretch. We were a little concerned about that part because they've been somewhat reluctant to spend money, and Mike Ashley's been a little bit of a disaster. Maybe it's the kind way to say it. But it looks like they're about to turn a corner, and this could be part of that process. So stay tuned. Nothing's done. This is just being reported, but it's being reported from a reputable source. So we'll see what happens. But Miggy watch could be a short watch.
God, let's hope so.
Yeah, I hope it's not like crazy, full of drama and chaos. That would
no
be
Villalba watch.
I can't deal with too many of these watches.
I know.
You get one per off season.
I just retweeted a video from the end of the match, and this is to the right of the supporter section.
Just saw this.
It's I think Atlanta United asked for video. Yeah, they wanted all the video clips from MLS Cup and the victory parade, so send those to ATL UTD. But this one from Rusi
make
Patel,
Mikey's job as difficult as possible.
Give Mikey as much to work with as possible because that man is a dynamo. But this is a shot of somebody getting nailed by Tito Villalba's final shot in the match and in the game ending a few seconds later. I had completely forgotten about that until I went back and watched stuff. Oh, man, it was like right at him. Oh, man.
That's assault with a deadly weapon.
Right through the flags. Amazing.
Right
Tito
between the flags. Like the camera goes flying. You go fade to black for a pretty good while here. This is amazing. What a shot. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Here we go.
There's only a few players I can think of that are more dangerous with their right foot than Tito. Like if Tito launches a ball at you, I mean, at that point, it's up to God whether or not you're going to see the next day.
I don't want to get hit with a Tito Villalba shot.
Thank God he survived, let alone the camera.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right. I mean, Gressel's in that boat as well. Lorenowitz is in that boat.
Lorenowitz is definitely not. Lorenowitz has broken bones. We've seen that happen.
Yes. It's because, well, again, gentle reminder, Jeff Lorenowitz, top 5 in MLS history for free kick goals.
It's true. All right, let's get back into the WallPass Wednesday timeline. What do we have, Jarrett?
I don't know. Let me walk back and find out.
I like it. I like the preparation on this show this morning. This is outstanding.
The preparation on this show this morning is fantastic. Well, we were talking about Tito Villalba's right leg, and, I mean, that kind of distracted me. I'm not going to lie.
Hey, it happens. It's okay.
It does. Joe Boss, good morning, guys. The video by Jay Riddle is just wow. So do we get more Mikey A splitting time with George Bello now that Greg Garza has gone to Cincinnati?
I think we'll talk about the video in a second. I think you will see Mikey Ambrose competing for a lot of time, and I think between CONCACAF Champions League, between a potentially more compressed schedule with more midweek games, if this playoff format and schedule format goes down, plus Open Cup, you're going to see a lot of games to be divided up between Ambrose, Hernandez, and Bello. I don't think one is going to play the overwhelming majority of the games. And it will be down to form a little bit. It'll be down to situations. But all of them are going to have a chance to get playing time, Joe.
Let's see. Michael Ruiz. Any concerns about center back
the video.
depth?
We got to talk about the video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you have not seen the last Nothing's Going to Stop Us video, man, yeah, it got me. One, I completely forgot that I said things after the game because I was in an out-of-body experience at this point of the night. But, yeah, like I hadn't heard that part back, and just the way Jay put it together, it's really good. And it's been, I was talking to people after stoppage time last night, like it's been a whirlwind, and there's been so much going on that I've been able to kind of distract myself from just the raw emotion of everything. But yeah, different things at different points have set me off, and that was one as I saw it this morning and watched that through as a whole. It was really well done. Jay knocked it out of the park with that one.
Yeah, Jay's been doing that. He's been knocking them out of the park. I mean, there's nothing. You can't mince words about that one. I think he's done a really good job.
He's got to find a new song though for 2019.
Yes, he does. I'm sure he can dig into the 80s and find some subpar synthed up pop song he can use. There's lots to choose from.
Man, Jared.
Michael Ruiz. Any concern about center back depth going into 2019 outside of Miles Robinson and/or sliding Larry into the third center back spot? Do we need another center back, especially with CONCACAF Champions League?
What do you think, Joe?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Any concerns about center back depth going into 2019 outside of Robinson and Lorenowitz? Do we need another center back?
I would like to see Atlanta acquire a center back, but it's not mainly due to a lack of depth that the team currently has. In fact, I think the team has depth. I would like to see them acquire like a really solid, like a really good center back to kind of be your starter. I think Atlanta has been extremely fortunate at center back position both this year and last year. I mean, Parkhurst and LGP have played just about every minute, and that is, well, I don't know how rare it is, but it's just extremely fortunate that like not so much as a twisted ankle or something that has kept those guys out for a 6-week stretch or something like that. So I think that a lot of people say, oh, we have Parkhurst, we have these guys. And Robinson can develop into that too, but I do. If we were to have to rely on Robinson for a long time, that would be something that would be just feels risky to me, since he's still a very young player. I think people can sometimes, when they see Robinson come in and have play a couple good games for the first team, you think, oh well, he's a quality starter in this league. But I think that just he still probably has less than 20 career starts professionally in his career. So, and most of those at the USL level. So I'd like to see them bring in another center back. Not necessarily for depth. I think they have the depth pieces there. They have guys who can rotate in, but I'd like to just see them bring in a guy who can really start and force more competition in that area. But like Jason said earlier, there aren't many positions. There aren't obvious areas of this team that need like desperate attention, like urgent attention to be upgraded. I think it's just where it's more building for down the line. I think if you sign a center back, it would almost more be for like building the future of your team and having that core at the back.
I disagree a little bit in that I don't think you're going to be able to get a starting level center back to come, assuming you re-sign Michael Parkhurst and know that he's not going to start every game. And it's part of just building a roster that's tough. Some guys are kind of slotted into certain roles, and it's going to be hard to get somebody to agree to play less to come here. Now, can it happen? Sure, and it'd probably be a veteran who would do it. It'd probably be a player who's looking for a ring late in their career. I think that player is honestly Jeff Lorenowitz. I don't think you're thinking of him as a holding midfielder going into 2019. I think you're thinking of him as a center back. And whether you're playing 3 or 2 center backs, Lorenowitz becomes part of that mix. And I'm definitely higher on Miles Robinson. And a lot of that is down to what I saw at the end of the Atlanta United 2 season, just his development and his comfort level. He's ready. And at some point, you're going to have to break the glass and consider him in that type of role. What I could see would be somebody being signed to replace Robinson in that pecking order. And there are a couple of guys who are potential homegrowns that could be in that scenario. A Kendall Edwards, who we saw a good bit with Atlanta United too.
I love Kendall Edwards.
At 17 years old. Yeah, I could see him on a homegrown deal and loaned to Atlanta United too and playing primarily there. George Campbell is a player that I love with the academy. We didn't see him with Atlanta United too. Bad luck with injuries. He was going to get some time there. He's one that maybe grows into that. But Kendall Edwards sliding in as the Miles Robinson, the young, developing center back, Robinson becoming part of the rotation, and Lorenowitz being your veteran to push as well, where you've got 4 guys for 3 spots or 4 guys for 2 spots and a guy developing. It's not bad. It's not bad, and I wonder even in a pinch if you had to do it, you've got some different guys who could maybe slide inside and take care of it, because you also still have Franco Escobar.
That's true. Yeah, and that's what I mean. When you have a lot of pieces, you have Lorenowitz who can slide in, you have Escobar who can slide in, you've got, we've talked about Parkhurst and Robinson as well. But yeah, I think so. For me with Robinson, my main concern is that we've only seen him really play with the first team in a 3 center back system, which we don't know if that's something that a new manager would prefer. So we haven't really seen him in a role where he's, at 2 in the back, it's a much different game. You have a lot more responsibility on you, especially with the ball. I'm just wary that he has played in that system with ATL UTD too. And so it's not like we haven't seen anything from him there. But I think with the first team at the MLS level, we've seen him come in to a role where he has a very specific objective and duty in the game, and it plays to his strengths. I think Tata managed him perfectly. So and we can disagree on this. It's totally fine. It's not to say that I think he's a bad player, or that I think he won't continue to develop into a good player. For me, it just feels it just feels risky to me. But like you said, there are lots of players that could slide in. I think that probably would slide in. Like we saw now ahead of him, like a Lorenowitz, like maybe not an Escobar. He's probably surpassed Escobar now if you're playing in a 3 as a center back. But yeah, I mean, we can disagree. It's the beautiful thing of this game.
Yeah, you've got flexibility. I mean, I would, because of your investment in Robinson and his potential, I would be ready to give him the opportunity. If it doesn't work out, you do have Escobar who can come inside. You do have some other pieces that could work. I mean, if John Gallagher continues his development, you're looking at him as a potential right back. You've got Julian Gressel, who we saw killed it as a right wing back. Can he play as a right back in a 4-man back line? We saw it in Orlando. It looked good. So you've got potential to move the pieces around. And I really think with Atlanta United and just as the game continues to evolve, we're going to think less about static positions and players only playing 1 or 2 different spots. It's going to be more about how they combine as a group in a tactical situation, and you're going to have guys who can play different roles. That's where Escobar, to me, is vital, because you can use him as a center back in a 2 center back setup or in a 3 center back setup. You can use him as a right back in a 4-man back line. You can use him as a right wing back in a 5-man back line. That's critical, because that's 4 different roles that he can fill. Let's take a final break and come back and wrap everything up with the WallPass Wednesday timeline after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Final segment on Soccer Down Here, WallPass Wednesday. We're definitely going well into stoppage time. The referee has not managed the clock very well in this match. There's been lots of time wasting.
It's CONCACAF.
Yeah, we're just getting ready for the craziness of CONCACAF where, 45 minutes lasts 62, and it just happens. What do we have on the WallPass Wednesday timeline, Jarrett?
I don't know. Let me figure it out. Sorry, my child dropped apple butter, and I stepped in it. So, that's a good start to the day.
Could be worse.
It could be. Oh, let's find out. See if we can stabilize this universe. That's not going to happen. The Colonel says, was there any significance to the fact that the parade route looked like a W?
That's kind of funny. I didn't notice that until I saw him mention it. I will give Darren a lot of credit for having ridiculous swagger and mic dropping ability. I don't know if he could have planned the city streets in Atlanta, which ones would work for a parade. So I'm going to say no, but I'm not going to rule it out that this could have been one of the biggest troll jobs of all time.
Yeah, it would be better if it was shaped like a China Orlando logo. But
Orlando. What about Orlando trading Amro Tarek for a 4th round pick? Like,
I don't know what they're doing.
What? I mean, so they trade 2 guys who you would think would be center backs for this team, or 2 defenders for this team, and Mohamed El Munir and Amro Tarek, and you get a 4th round super draft pick, which is worth about the same as a now and later at Quick Trip.
You would draft one of us with a 4th round super draft pick.
It's possible. It is possible. And you get Joao Moutinho, who I don't know what position he's going to play in this league. He was the number 1 pick in last year's Super Draft, sure. Very technical. I think he's probably an 8 in this league. If you play him at left back, it's not going to work. Ask LAFC. Go ask Bob Bradley.
Like what Rob Usry said yesterday, that Julian Gressel is single-handedly going to keep the draft alive for another 5 years.
Yeah, but not 4th round picks. I mean, that is literally like not worth the paper that you're going to turn in to write the pick's name down on. I don't know.
Probably. Next up, John Nason, are we expecting a 34-game schedule next year, balancing out Eastern Conference to home and away with everyone, no third rivalry game?
Yes, that's the expectation. The Board of Governors is meeting this week in New York, where they're going to talk about competition format for 2019. And I know the playoff format is probably the biggest point of discussion. I haven't seen any speculation that you would see fewer regular season games or more added. I think you're looking at 34 for 2019.
All right. Jorge, wasn't Salcido a right midfielder at the beginning of his career?
He was. He dropped back to play in the back, and with the Red Bulls, he mostly played on the right side, but he did feature as a 3rd center back when they did that. Remember last year, especially, Jesse Marsh tinkered a lot with 3 in the back and playing like a 3-3, 3-1 type of setup late in the season that carried them a good bit. So versatility, I wonder if he'll end up somewhere. You know, he had bad luck this year with injuries. We never really got to see much of him on the field. Good veteran, good presence in the locker room, good player to have on your roster if he wants to make another go of it.
Yeah.
Breaking news, Orlando City has received another 4th round pick.
Are you serious?
In exchange for Tony Roca.
So they're trading players for 4th round picks that mean nothing.
To me, this is just them trying to clear cap space because I don't think they would have much to work with based on all the TAM they've given away in trades recently.
But this is what's weird to me. So, okay, Tony Roca for a 4th round pick, that sounds about right. You know,
yeah, that
Tony Roca is a somewhat promising player who I think in the right situation could be useful for you, but he hasn't really shown much. Amro Tarek, how do you not get more than a 4th round pick for him? Here's your 4th
I think it just
round.
shows there's not much of a market for him.
I'm blown away, though. I'm blown away because there are teams that Amro Tarek would start for. Here's your 4th round last year. You know, Atlanta United picked up Paul Christensen, who ended up being a piece for Atlanta United, too. Colorado picked Nicky Jackson, who, for some reason, they really liked, and he played a decent bit of minutes. Surprisingly, I was a little shocked by that. New England picked up Nicholas Samoya, who played some. I think he was let go. A few other players you've heard of at different points who were picked, but you also had 7 teams pass. They didn't pick anybody. They didn't even waste the paper. And now you've picked up 2 fourth-round picks if you're Orlando City. Have fun, guys.
All right, let's leave Orlando alone for a minute.
For a minute, anyway.
Joe McCurdy, don't know how to fill void of anticipating Atlanta United matches. So let's ask questions. Super stoked for Champions League, 2-parter. Is it a given that we'll play those matches in Mercedes-Benz, and do you think season ticket holders will have a chance to get their seats?
Season ticket holders will definitely have a chance to get their seats. It won't be like MLS Cup, where it's managed by an outside person. So that
where it's me threatening to powerbomb MLS operatives? Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, so don't worry about that. I believe it will be played at Mercedes-Benz, mainly because it's going to be late February for the first round with Herediano. That would be one, or if they'd played a smaller team that I could have seen, maybe in a perfect world, you play it at Kennesaw. But it's going to be late February, and that roof might come in very handy. So I'm assuming you'll play everything at Mercedes-Benz. And if you get to the quarterfinal against Monterrey, you can absolutely bet every seat's going to be available, and it'll be ridiculousness. So, yeah, I'd be shocked if in any other way if you're not playing these at Mercedes-Benz. Herediano won't be 73,000 people. I'd be blown away if it is, but Monterrey will if you get there.
Yeah, I'm here for that. And yeah, it's the team running and not the league, so we won't have seating chaos. Hopefully, everyone can get their seats. I would expect Herediano to be like a 45,000 seat kind of thing, maybe just depending on.
I think that's what
ticket.
It'll be.
Yeah. If it's Monterrey, it's going to be 70,000, and it's going to be raucous.
Yeah,
it's going to be unsafe.
Here's something we talked about a little earlier, Joe, that we did not mention. There is a rumor for FC Cincinnati to pick up a number 6, Victor Ulloa from Dallas. Looks like they're going to try to get him in a trade. Dallas is looking set to sign Honduran national team midfielder Brian Acosta, who is in Spain with Tenerife. So Ulloa is a player that I've liked a lot for a long time. That's a good move for Cincinnati. Is he a shutdown 6 like you talked about? There's a question about it, but that's good pedigree. He's a very good player to pick up.
Yeah, for sure. He's kind of one of those versatile central midfielders. Will help. Very good in possession. I like him.
He's one that,
like I said, I don't think
he's
he's not that defensive one, but yeah.
Yeah, he's not quite a 6. He can play it, and he'll be useful for them there. But he was one when Nagbe was injured, and you talked about potential moves Atlanta might make before Remedi went down. He was a player that I would have loved to have possibly seen before Dallas traded Kellen Acosta, and then they weren't going to deal another central midfielder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good pickup for them. I like it. I like how Cincinnati is generally shaping their team, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's intriguing. It's not big money, but it's definitely better than Minnesota did when they built their team from scratch, or coming in from a lower division.
Yeah, they're not shooting for MLS Cup right off the bat, like kind of Atlanta United was, but I think they're building in the right kind of with the right mindset, the right kind of philosophy, or at least what I would agree with.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
And final question from El Mataflo, Jorge again.
El Mataflo.
McCann played well at center back in the three of the back system. I'm really excited about the idea of academy players coming in and developing rather than signings. And this is the point where I hold up a sign that says "Free Bryce Washington" when he's done at Rutgers.
Yeah, I'd love to see. This is where a PDL team would be really nice, or now USL League 2. I'd love to see Bryce Washington back up close and see where he's at. Much Hope Chol, different position, but he had a very good year at Wake Forest with a top college team. Would love to see how he could fit into that. Yeah, Nat Nail's not there yet. He's a player to continue to look at it right back. So I'm intrigued. Center back, I think, is a situation where you've got cover and you don't have to make a move, that doesn't preclude you from making one. If the right guy becomes available, you absolutely do it. That's what Atlanta United has shown. They have a plan, and they know what they want to do, and they're thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. But even when you do that, surprises can happen. Somebody might drop into your lap. An offer might come in for one of your players that is just too good to pass up, and you have to move to plan B. So could they add a center back? It's definitely possible. I think they have enough cover to go into the season and be just fine. And I do like the idea of thinking now, okay, Bello has a clearer path to play. He's still got to earn it, but he will play more in 2019 because of the Garza trade. You could look at a Kendall Edwards. He played a lot with Atlanta United, too, for a reason. He's very highly thought of in this club. He's one who you could say, you know what, Kendall, we don't want to see you go to college for a year. We're just going to go ahead and sign you. You could see him signed to a USL contract as well as an intermediary step. That happens. So you've got lots of flexibility, and you have to be ready to pull the trigger on the right moves as they happen because you never really can predict when they do. You know, I don't know how long Eric Remedi was a target and how long they went for that. It worked out perfectly when they brought him in. Nagby was a guy that they identified. They didn't think he'd become available. He did, and they immediately pounced on that trade. So they have a plan, but they're also flexible enough to deviate from it when opportunities present themselves.
Will Crane's another one I want to see what he looks like when he's done at Brown. Because I think he needed time in college, but when he comes out of Brown, Will Crane could be a problem if he keeps developing.
Yep, and then you've got a little bit of a lull, but we've talked about it from day one with this academy. I've had these conversations with Tony Annan, looking at the academy group, and your group of kids right now that are 14, 15 that haven't really played in another academy, that have grown up in the Atlanta United system, those are the ones, when those are guys who you're looking at signing to homegrown deals, that are going to be a completely different type of level. And that's when you're going to have some very interesting discussions about, do I go get this 22-year-old from Boca or River or Bonfield or Lanús, or do I give this opportunity to the kid that I've watched day in and day out train and I think is ready for it? That's where you're going to have to compare and contrast, and it's going to be an interesting time because that's not that far off.
But we're all caught up.
All right, and we're only 12 minutes over. You know, it's one of those days. We're good. Joe, thanks for hanging out with us all morning. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. We will be back to a possibly semi-normal schedule tomorrow if John Nelson can speak. There's no guarantee of that after 2 days of high school football playoffs on Georgia Public Broadcasting. We'll also try to get Felipe Cardenas on with us for his usual Thursdays with Felipe segment, and we will get into your Thursday thoughts. So you are free to share those with us whenever you want on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Yeah. Oh, Jarrett, do we have something?
Well, something for you. I don't know how much schadenfreude you get out of this, but Eagles Landing Christian Academy is losing 10-0 at halftime in their state championship. Yeah, I figured.
I went to Eagles Landing Public, so, you know, we're not very good.
They're the baddies.
Well, I thought Elko was going to win by like 60 points because that's just what they do. But they're having problems with Athens Academy.
Yeah, they generally dominate. Eagles Landing football, not so much. I believe in 23, 24 years of playing football now at Eagles Landing, they've made the state playoffs 2 or 3 times. Maybe. Might be 2. They've made the playoffs more in soccer, I can tell you that much.
You too, huh?
Yes. All right, let's go. We're getting punchy. It's one of those days. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata, y'all.
Joe, you can say it. It's okay.
Mucho plata, y'all.
All right.
You're not banned.
I said that in the most John Nelson way I could possibly say it.